Hello everyone, I'm Untitled. Linux cluster on CentOS 6 and 7, Chapter 14, Database Cluster with MySQL. Main topics, this chapter will cover this kind of topics. Two topics, MySQL cluster using Conga and CCS. In this video, I will explain the MySQL cluster configuration process using Conga and CCS with 5 steps. Step 1, MySQL configuration for cluster. Step 2, define the failover domain. Step 3, define resources with the 4 types. And step 4, define the cluster service. And the last step will test MySQL cluster service. Okay, MySQL configuration for cluster. Okay, number 1, at first time, disable the MySQL service in all cluster node because this service must be started by cluster. So using this command, chkconfig mysqld off. Number 2, check MySQL configuration file. So this is a main configuration file for MySQL. So etc/my.cnf data directory. I will use this one, var/library/mysql, and the process file var run mysql.pid. And the number 3, modify the MySQL process ID on MySQL script file for cluster service. Please open this file vim usr share cluster/mysql.ss script file. So please define the MySQL process file. In my case, I will tell you I will use this one, var/run/mysqld/mysqld.pl. So this one, okay, this one must be the same. And number 4, create GFS2 file system for MySQL cluster. So in my case, this one, MySQL LB logical volume from the volume group 1. And of that, the format using the GFS2, the journal, protocol, table, and device name like this. And after that, if you want to mount this file system automatically, then we can use this etc/fstab. So device name and the mount point and the file system and option and 00. And then we can mount using this command mount the file system type option. This one is a device and mount point. And after for the testing, we will mount. Okay, MySQL cluster using Conga. So after you start the cluster manager and log into the Lucy, and there we can create this kind of MySQL cluster. So step 1, define the failover domain. In my case, I will use 2 kinds the failover domain, web server and database. In this video for the MySQL cluster, I will use the database. So order, restricted, and private options. And if you need more the failover domain, you can create for each service. Step 2, define the resources for clustered MySQL service. First one, GFS2. This one will be the file system. So here, name, mount point, device, file system type, and mount point. In my case, I will told you the name will be MySQL root, and mount point, and the device, and the file system type, and options. IP address for the plotting IP address. In my case, I will use this IP address 10.1.1.50 like a web server with the monitoring options. And the script name MySQLD and the pool path. So MySQL the script file located in here etc/rc./init./mysqld. And we need to add one more the resources. In my case, the MySQL name MySQL config file etc/my.cnf, and the listen address I already told you 10.1.1.50, and the startup wait 10 seconds or 5 seconds, and shutdown wait time also will use the 15 seconds. And step 3, define the clustered service. So now in step 2, I create 4 kinds of the cluster resources. So here, using this kind of resource, I will create the service. Service name will, this one, MySQL-service. And database, favorable as a favorable domains, I will use the database. And the recovery policy, I will use the relocate. And the option, the automatically the start this service. And after that, below the service name, you can add the resource. I already told you I create the 4 kinds the resource: file system, IP address, script, and MySQL. Step 4, test the clustered MySQL cluster service. Start MySQL service on the other node. At first time, the 3 node can fail over the MySQL cluster service. So at first time, start MySQL service 1 cluster node. And after that, checking the cluster service using this command, cluster status. And after that, CLU SVC ADM using this one, the relocate MySQL service name and the member. At first time, if we guess this MySQL service running on node 01.churl.com, but we can locate. And after that, check the cluster status. And also we can test like this. Kill the MySQL, the daemon. And after that, we can check this service fail over to another load automatically using this command. MySQL cluster using the CCS. Step 1, define the favorable domain. So add favorable domain. In my case, I will use the database with restricted and order as an option. And add favorable domain node. So database, the favorable domain name, and node 1, node 2, in my case, node 3 will be the member of this favorable domain with this kind of priority 10, 20, 30 like this. If we want to check this configuration, then we can use this command. Step 2, define the resources. I already told you here, add the resource, cluster file system, device, DB, volume group 1, and the logical volume, MySQL LB. And the option, false amount on file system type GFS2, and mount point, var/library/MySQL. And the name will be MySQL root. Options, no access time, and self and so on. And the second, the resource IP, so address as a floating IP address 10.1.1. In my case, the 50, and the monitor link on sleeping time 1 like this. And the second, the third, the resource is my case the script. So name will be MySQLD. It means the daemon. So in my case, I will use this one. etc/rc./init.d MySQLD. And the last resource is MySQL. Name, just MySQL same. And configuration file, etc/my.cnf. And the recent address is a floating IP address. And the startup wait 5 or 10 minutes. And the shutdown wait 15 seconds. And at that, here, node 01, get conf, then you will check this kind of configuration. Step 3, define cluster the service. So in step 2, I already create 4 kinds the resources for this service. So here, add a service. The name, MySQL-service. And this service belongs to domain, in my case, the database favorable domain, and the max restarted 3 times. And the name, MySQL-service. And the recovery policy is relocate. And at that, we need to add serve the resources here. So service name, MySQL service, and IP, floating IP address, script is MySQLD, the name, and the cluster file system, MySQL root, and MySQL name is MySQL. And after that, the sync activate, it means the propagate the configuration file to all cluster node. This is the same also. This command is the same. And start all the cluster node. And if you want to check the configuration, then you can use this command. Testing also the same. The CLUST8 and or the cman tool the services, then you can check these MySQL services. And after that, the kill MySQL daemon using this command. And after that, checking. Or you can use the relocate like this. And remember, at first time, if I just start this service on node 1, then I can kill this daemon, and after that, I can relocate it to another cluster node. Okay, then let's try to test. Okay, in my case, for the testing, I prepare for the 4 kinds the cluster node here: manager, node 1, node 2, and node 3. And each cluster node, node 1, node 2, node 3 already install the MySQL. Please check. Okay, so in my case, I install this kind of MySQL packages: ODBC, Python, server, client, library, and development. So at first time, let's check the configuration, MySQL configuration cluster. First, let's check MySQL off. So this service, MySQL service, must be started by the cluster. And after that, second, my.cnf. So here, data directory, var, library, MySQL, and the socket also, and log file here, var/log MySQLD, and PI process file, var run MySQLD PID. So number 3, modify MySQL process. So let's open this file, usr share cluster MySQL sh. So in my case, let's check line number 33 here, declare MySQL process file here, var run MySQLD PID. So all cluster node must be same, this one. Okay, then number 4, the create the GFS file system for MySQL the cluster. So in my case, now let's check logical volume. So and the volume group as well. Now I have the 2 kinds volume. Okay, volume group 1 and volume group 2. And the volume group 1 only the space, the empty space or free space only around the 3 GB, but the volume group 2 has around 12 GB. So in my case, I will use the volume group 2. So here, lv create, in my case, 3 GB. So now the 3 GB name MySQL logical volume and volume group, in my case, volume group 2. Let's check. So now I will create this one, 3 GB. And now let's create the file system, GFS2. So in my case, journal 3 and the protocol, rock DLM, and the table, knowledge PR, and device, volume group 2, MySQL logical volume. Okay, yes. Okay, now I create this one, MySQL logical volume, block size, and device size like this. Okay, let's try to mount this one. GFS to file system type, option, and device, EV, in my case, VG2, MySQL logical volume, and let's check mount. So this one, MySQL logical volume, VR library, MySQL, and also this one, okay, find like this. For the testing, now on mount. Okay, df-h. So now I finish the default configuration for the cluster. So here each cluster node must see this kind of information. This one file system and node 2. Okay. Also okay, MySQL logical volume and node 3 as well. Okay, I create the logical volume. For the testing, I will use the Conga. So let's go to the Conga. Okay, here. So in my case, now I'm using 3 the cluster node and the failable domain. Okay, I create already the 2 the failable domain, web server and database. Let's check the database. I will use this the failable domain. So prioritize, restricted, and no failback. So in my case, node 3 is priority 1, and node 2 is priority 2, and node 3 is priority 3, like this. So I already create the database. Now let's go to the resources. Okay, in my case, for the web server Apache testing, I already create the 3 kind the resources: HTTPD, web root, and IP address. So here for the MySQL, I will create 4 resources here. Okay, let's add first. So at first time, let's check. In my case, IP address first. So IP address, in my case, 10.1.1.50 as a floating IP address, and the netmask bit 24 bit. So now I create this one. Okay, you can see this one, the 10.1.1.50. Okay, this one I will use this IP address for floating IP address of MySQL. Okay, second, let's try to create the script. Okay, script. Okay, name here MySQLD and the pull path etcrc.init.d MySQLD. Okay, here. So MySQLD script. And the third, let's try to create. If you see here, we can find the MySQL like this. Okay, name, this one, just MySQL, and recent address 10.1.1.50. Okay, this one, and the options no, and this one start of wait is 5 and shutdown around the 15 sec and submit. Okay, now I create the 3 kinds the resource for MySQL, the cluster service, the 10.1.1.50 IP address, and the MySQL is a script, and MySQL server. The last one will be the file system. So here, let's go to the GFS2. Okay, so name here MySQL root. Okay, and the mount point var library MySQL. Okay, and the device, in my case, DV volume group 2 MySQL LV. Mount options. Okay, file system ID. Sorry, I will edit this one. So MySQL root, the mount point, and the device, and the file system type will be the GFS2, and the mount option no accessing type, and the false amount, and that leave it to host if amount fails. Okay, like this. So apply. Okay, now I create the 4 kinds the resources here: IP address, script, and the MySQL server, and the file system name is a MySQL root. So now let's create the service group. Okay, in my case now I'm using only the web service, but here I will add the MySQL service. Okay, MySQL service, and automatically start this service, and then don't check this one, run is class if we have another service. So now I have the web service, so I will not check this one. And the fail of domain, okay, database, and the recovery, relocate, okay, submit. Okay, now I create the MySQL service and I need to add the resources to this service. So let's try to the add here, add the resource. Okay, in my case, at first time, let's check here IP address 10.1.1.50. Okay, IP address. And the second resource here, the MySQL daemon script. So MySQL d etc rc.int.d MySQL. Okay. And the third, MySQL, okay, name and configuration file, recent address, and the startup and shutdown wait time. And the last one will be the file system. Okay, GFS2, the mount point var library / MySQL, and the device file system type, the GFS2, no accessing, and force mounting with this kind of options. Okay, submit. Now I create this kind of service, then we can see this one running on node 3 because node 3 has the priority number. So now let's check this kind of status using the command. At first time, CLUST80. Okay, now node 1 is char.com. This one web service, and MySQL is node 3. And let's go to the node 3 here. Okay, also you can find node 3, and let's check the process. So now we can find this process is working well. And so in my case, I created the MySQL logical volume in the node 1, but now node 3 is mounted in this one. Okay, var library and MySQL. Okay, let's check. So we can find this kind of different files. So for the testing, now let's kill the process falsely. So process kill -9 MySQL d. So let's check again. So we can find recoverable and Conga also. Now we can see this kind of the message. Okay, in my case now, I'm using this command. At first time, the MySQL service, the enable in node 3, but now here, MySQL service node 2, and so let's check here. Okay, now we can see running node 2.char.com, and let's check in node 2. At first time, mount information. So now volume group 2, MySQL logical volume, and let's check the process. Okay, we can find this kind of the daemon, and let's try to create the service. So here show databases. So the default database, let's try to cluster. Okay, now I create this one, new the database is one cluster. Let's exit. So I already told you this one. Let's try to move relocate now MySQL service and the member node3.char.com. Okay, now we can see this message, MySQL service now running on node 3. And the node 3, let's check here. Okay, first one, the mount information. So we can find this one. In case of node 2, okay, let's check. So we cannot find the MySQL, the mount point. Only node 3, this one, MySQL logical volume. And let's check the process. Okay, we can find this kind of the process. In node 2, we cannot define the MySQL process because this already failed over to node 3. And node 3, let's try to access MySQL server and show data bases. So now we can find cluster like this. So using Conga, we can use MySQL cluster service. Now let's check here MySQL service. Okay, now we can see running node 3. So in the command line, okay, and the cman tool, okay, here you can find here MySQL like this. So now, at first time, node 3 started the MySQL service, but I failed over this service to the node 2. But node 2, I create the database for the testing, and after that, I also locate this one to node 3 again. So now the MySQL service is working on node 3 with a new database. Okay, so far I show you how to create or configure MySQL the cluster using Conga. Okay, chapter 14 summary here. Please check make sure how to configure MySQL cluster using Conga and CCS. This one, and please test. How can you test MySQL cluster service? In my case, I use the relocation the service, and after create one the database, and after that try to fail over this database to another cluster node. Okay, thank you for watching this video. God bless you and see you in next video.